when I put myself first, my family started transforming. My relationships started transforming with them. And I was able to see how I can use my power of influence to, inspire my family to change.
Hey there, welcome back to the Chill Mom Boss Show, and I'm your host, Michelle Hon. Today, I have with me Monica Lopera Nassar. She's a former food marketing executive turned habit coach for moms. So for all you moms out there listening today, you're in luck because Monica, as a creator of the Right from the Start method, which we will ask her about what is it all about, she pairs her background in integrative nutrition and neuroscience to create holistic transformation using the power of the plate, habit, and family. Wow. Okay, welcome, Monica. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, Michelle, so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and have a conversation. I know that was a lot throughout your audience right now, but we'll break it down.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, can you explain to us what is it all about? Because I know what it is, and I think like for people who are tuning in for the first time, they'll be like, what? But I know it's all about habit, and habit is the foundation of how we live our life, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it bears to kind of give a little bit of an origin story of how I arrived here and how I, basically really transitioned from not only focusing on nutrition, but really pairing it with neuroscience, which is the root of how we can create the life that we want, really leveraging our power of our biology. So I'll definitely break that down a little bit. But my story really started in corporate America. I used to work in advertising and marketing and branding for major food brands like McDonald's and Burger King and all the big restaurant brands, also consumer packaged goods like Gerber baby food. So I have an extensive background in how products are positioned, how brands are positioned to speak to people's values, how to be persuasive, and how to really influence so that I can influence purchasing decisions at the home level. At the time, I was a single person, so I didn't understand the family implications. I also didn't understand the importance of our biology and our ingredients. So it wasn't until I became a mother myself and I took a sabbatical that I started to really, really understand, okay, what does it take to feed a little human? What is it that I am putting into his body as far as the products that I'm using. So then that kind of opened the door, which I think a lot of moms can relate listening, that it's not until we're feeding or responsible for another little human that we start to pay attention. Like, well, what am I putting in my body? What's actually in what makes up the ingredients that make up a certain, products that we're feeding our children or that we have in our homes. And so that really led me to understanding a lot about our nutrition. So I went back to school to get certified in integrative nutrition, which is really important for the listeners to understand that it's more than just what's on our plate, right? We always focus on diet and ingredients as far as that being health, but really our health is a holistic experience, meaning it's a 360-degree experience, and our emotional health, our mental health, our spiritual health, all of that plays a huge part into how we feel every single day. And so I've really kind of taken this, my own personal transformation story. So I went through my own health journey to really understand the power of not only ingredients, but also our mental and emotional health, which then led to neuroscience and really understanding how our brains work, because we all know the things that we need to do to be healthy, but we constantly choose to do other things. And I was fascinated to understand why. It's not that we can't Google how to be healthy or what we need to do. It's what causes us to repeat old patterns and behaviors. And that's really what led me down incorporating more neuroscience, really understanding how the brain develops habits. So essentially, that's really where I got into really focusing so much on habits, because our life is a series of habits. And if we can transform our habits, we can transform our life. And so when breaking it down that way makes it a lot easier, especially for busy moms that are doing all the things, right? So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Like Yeah, I got you when you say, oh, as we start to realize what we're feeding ourselves and our kids. And so how did you now, with all that knowledge that you have, decided to, okay, right, this is what I think is so important to other moms to know as well, and to turn this into a business. So how did you get started?
Well, how I got started was at first I started as a health coach doing one-on-one coaching and just primarily focusing on weight loss because that was my journey. My story started with, I lost over 40 pounds after the second birth of my second son. And this was after me being a quote unquote healthy eater and working out and doing all the things. I was never shy about doing the work to be healthy or have fitness goals, but I was stuck. Like I couldn't change. Something wasn't registering, and it often had to do with our emotional well-being. At that time, I was also experiencing what I didn't know at the time was postpartum depression with my second son. My first born experience was beautiful. It was like textbook and fairy tale. The second one was a lot more, really raw and really unexpected. I wasn't anticipating that being such a tough pregnancy, and also post birth, just feeling all the things. And when, as moms, oftentimes we don't take the time to check in with ourselves and really understand the implications that if I don't put myself first, then who am I showing up as a mother to my children? And more importantly, that's impacting the next generation and on. And so what really led me to really shift my focus into habit formation is because I started to see when I put myself first, my family started transforming, my relationships started transforming with them. And I was able to see how I can use my power of influence to, inspire my family to change. And so they started adopting better, more mindful practices. And my husband also lost a bunch of weight. We both just started creating this alignment at the home level that really allows for anybody who's working on their health goals, any kind of goals whatsoever. When your home life and your personal goals don't align, it makes it really difficult for there to be a sustained impact, right? For you to actually keep up with that. And so that really was like a light bulb moment. I knew that if I could help empower moms, then I can also help power up the next generation of moms. And so we can stop, kind of like end the cycle of always just kind of putting ourselves in the back burner as moms, like giving up our entire identity for the good of our families, thinking that makes us, a good mom, when in fact we have to be at 100% too in order for us to lead. So that's really what drove me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Moms tend to put ourselves in the back burner, and we don't realize that if we look after ourselves, then we should be leading instead of being, behind our family and just trying to push them to become healthier, eat healthier, when we're just all like eating, leftovers, isn't it?
That's exactly it. I mean, that's actually a beautiful segue, because one of the things I say is that, your life is reflected on the plate. And so how do you treat yourself at meal times? Are you eating your kiddos' leftovers after their lunch and that's your lunch? Or, you're eating at the kitchen counter because you haven't made the time to make a meal for yourself. Oftentimes we just we're such givers, and well-intentioned, of course, well-intended to do that. But it's like, how does your plate look like? Have you taken the time to make it beautiful, to make it joyful experience? Are you eating on the go? Is it an afterthought? Because that's really reflective of how you treat yourself. And so that's a really beautiful way for your listeners. And that's a quick win already, is take a look at your plate at meal times and see what that says about you. And are you showing the same amount of love and care and intention that you do for your loved ones?
I love that. And that's also a good, an easy way as well, if you are not currently looking after yourself, to now see that, hey, I am putting the right things on my plate. And that's the first step, kind of, to decide that, okay, now I am looking at, my plate look fairly good. It's fairly healthy. I think I am beginning to look after myself and taking care of myself. And so usually when your clients come to you, when moms are, coming to you, are they like at the stage of burning out, or how do they realize that they need you?
That's a very good question. And it makes it really tricky because oftentimes moms, we're not looking for things for us. We're always researching like child development milestones or, how to be a better parent. And, so you're always looking for other things. But I really like to, I do get most of my moms are at that point where they know that they need something. They know they're looking to their words are, they're looking to regain control back in their life. They feel as though they have lost control. So typically it is when you've hit a wall, when you've realized like, you know what, I know I can't continue on, something has to change. And that's usually when they come and see me. Ideally, though, I would love to see them ahead of that. I want to avoid them feeling that burnout, that feeling that moment of loss. But at the same time, I understand that sometimes we need to hit that wall in order for us to really be committed to making that change, right?
Yeah, because very often when people are comfortable, they don't seek change. It only when it gets like really uncomfortable, then they were really ready to take that leap into trying something else because what you're currently doing is not working. So,
Right. And yeah.
So coming back to you, right? When you decided to go back to school and learn about nutrition and diving into neuroscience, you are starting a family yourself. So how did you balance it all?
I know, right? Well, honestly, it started with making changes to my habits. So one of the biggest things that I justified not doing anything for myself is because I didn't have time. This is like the common question, right? Or the common thing that comes up for moms is like, I don't have time to read books. I don't have time to do all the things. But in actuality, we have plenty of time. It's what we prioritize, right? And so one of the biggest habits that I identified early on, and this is something that, of course, we'll get to, and probably in the show notes, we'll share the link to my free download for my audio series on how to create habits. And I actually walk you through a 1, 2, 3 steps of how to create and how to like actually work towards rebuilding a new habit. So bear with me while I kind of go through this as we're talking about it. But one of the things that you can identify when you're looking at your time is what habit is a disempowering habit. There's usually something that we do, whether that's scrolling through our social media. And for me, it was television watching. I would watch TV at night to decompress. And I knew that for me, it was a form of escapism, right? That for me was a way for me to numb out or to tune out, literally. And I would spend hours. I mean, I wouldn't go to bed until midnight or 1 o'clock. And I justified it as like, well, this is my time. It's my me time. And, and of course our kids are going to bed at, 7, 8 o'clock. That's a long time. I mean, you could do so much with that time that you're just sitting there watching another person's story. And so I really leveraged. So I time shifted is really what it was. I identified a habit that was not allowing me to get to the goals that I had for myself. And so by eliminating that habit and replacing it with reading. And so that's when I started to really get into a lot of nutritional science podcasts to really understand, because this is what's really fascinating is that neuroscience and nutritional science in the last 10 years has seen a lot more in the research that's available, the studies. They're able to actually see inside the mind how our habits work. So this is newer information. It's not like something that we would have learned in school. The same as with our nutrition. All of the implications to our health and our food supply and everything that's happening biologically with our bodies is now coming to surface. So it was really fascinating for me to just kind of dive deeper into understanding the science. How do I make it palatable for moms? How do I really make it matter? Because oftentimes you're like, yeah, that's nice, but that's boring. Maybe you're like, that's not exciting to you like it is to me. But one of the most fascinating things that I think your listeners will love to know is that over 95% of your daily actions that you do every single day, they run on autopilot, meaning your subconscious mind literally defaults to autopilot mode, and you don't even recognize that you're doing things automatically. There's no choice involved. And that's because our brains have evolved to become more efficient, right? That's the way that they conserve energy. So they want you to stay predictable. They want you to stay the same. That's why change feels so difficult and oftentimes painful. And that's because your brain kind of freaks out a little bit and says, hey, this is not normal.
Yeah, why are you not watching TV?
Yeah, this is not on the guide, this is not on the manual. I don't know this program. Can you please go back to the same, thing that you used to do every day? And so that's why it makes it so hard for people to really make changes, is because the longer that you have this habit, the more that it's ingrained in the way that you act without you even choosing to act. But the fun fact here that I wanted to loop in the mamas especially is because our brain develops subconsciously in the first 7 years of our life. So the first 7 years of your child's life, this is what was really powerful, is that you are essentially programming your child with their lifelong habits the first 7 years of their life, because their analytical part of their brain is not it's not active yet. So literally the saying, your child are sponges, they absorb everything. It's because they literally are. They literally are absorbing everything and they take it for face value. So when they see you, mama, taking care of yourself, doing all of the right things, they subconsciously will have those values, those habits, those principles, because that's how they grew up. And so that's a really, really powerful thing to think about, because not only is it a benefit for you to feel great, to have energy, to do all the things, but then you're also modeling that behavior to your child, and it will benefit them in their adulthood. So they won't be kind of having to rework, right? To reprogram all of these things.
Yeah. So we may have been screwed up growing up, but we don't want to screw our kids up. So you better be the good role model for them. And I've seen your photos. You have two beautiful sons, right? So
thank you.
Yes, your beautiful images with your son, and you're eating well with them. So coming back to, when you decide, okay, right, I'm going to stop watching TV. And so how did you switch that? It was painful for you, I suppose, right? The same one. So how do you switch that? Okay, now I need to listen to podcasts on neuroscience, as you mentioned. So what was that transition like for you? And then how you now use that, I suppose, as an example to coach other moms?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing, anytime that you're trying to shift your behavior, which is really what habits are the actions or the behaviors that are needed in order for you to reach your desired outcome or goal. So with all of that, what that really means is that you want to start to tap into who is it that you're trying to be, and really start to look at who she is, right? So really have a clear definition of who is it that I want to be, and really start to operate from that place. And then if you are this person, if you assume this new identity today, right now, what does this person do? What does their life look like? Because chances are that's going to lead you to having all of the things that you are desiring to have in your life, right? And so culturally, we've sort of been taught the opposite, which is this have, do, be model, meaning you have to do all the things in order to become this person. And so you want to reverse that formula and really start to decide, I am this person. I decided this is who I am. And really use the power of visualization. I personally I have a visual of myself or that goal that I had, and I would tap into that. Every time I felt I was at a crossroads or it felt difficult, I would remind myself, well, this is what I want. This is who I want to be. And so this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So it's no longer restriction, it's freedom. And so it's almost like a reframing of that. Oftentimes we feel confined by habits or creating these new habits, but it's because they're not in alignment with our values, which our values are tied to who we want to be. And so when there's a disalignment there, it makes it almost like a battle. And you want to avoid the battle, because usually chances are your old behavior will win all the time. It's like the gorilla and a monkey. Like the gorilla will always win. That's how powerful the subconscious mind is. That's how powerful our old habits are. Very, very powerful. And the only way that you change that is through repetition and consistent action. It's not sexy, but it works. You know, you just have to do the work. But again, aligning with your desired state, with that, you know, with that vision is really, really powerful.
I love that. I think anyone listening, if you missed that, you should actually just rewind and hear that again. So be, do, have. Become who you want to be in your mind first, and then naturally you will do the things that to support who you want to become, and then you'll have and then
You'll have your outcomes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
so be, do, have. Yeah, you'll have all the things you desire. If it's prosperity, if it's all of the things, you know, it starts from the person doing the doing, right? So if you are operating as your current state and you're trying to expect a different outcome, you have to come at it from a different point of view. If that helps in this description a little bit, it's like you can't be the same person trying to have a different outcome. You have to really own and step into this new identity and really truly believe it, and then start operating from that place. And that is going to take you down a different path versus just trying to stay the same person and doing all of these external things because you think that that's what you're supposed to do,
Yeah.
when in fact they don't align with who you want to be, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's really powerful. That's true. Okay, so it does take you know, a person to be mindful and say, right, this is not working for me, and like you say, you know, the power of visualization, and to take some quiet time out for themselves to imagine who they want to become, to decide that for themselves. And I believe these will be covered in the free audio habit formation.
this was a little extra in the actual habit formation audios. It's a 3-step audio. I really simplify it because I wanted to really make it streamlined so that your audience and anyone who's downloading the series will have actionable takeaways. And so they can really, it's simplified. So it will be it'll walk you through step by step, just 3 steps to building habits for life. And it's really all about taking small action that leads to big change. So I cover micro habits. I cover habit stacking. Again, big words, fancy words for just really simplifying how our brains really are able to shift and make those changes. So I break that down. Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Yeah, we like easy, simple things around here. Okay, great. So I will make sure that I will add that into our show notes. So before we leave, what is the one thing that you want to share with our audience?
Oh, that's a big one. Well, I guess for me, the biggest thing that I can say, especially because your audience are moms or they're women, and I think this is such an important message, and that is the single most important habit that you can have is to truly love yourself like your life depends on it. Love yourself with so much, with all your being, truly. I think we don't say this enough as women to women. We also don't grow up with this notion of really truly becoming our best friend, really coming from a place of like treating yourself like you would your newborn child, because it really stems from how we show up for ourselves. It really translates in so many other aspects of our life. And so that would be the biggest headline is find habits. It's not about self-care. Yes, we hear about all those things and I'm not dismissing it, but it's truly really taking the time to, when you look in the mirror, compliment yourself. Look at the beauty that you have. Be really grateful for where you are. Love your body. Show your love, show yourself some love, because it really will translate in other aspects of your life. So that would be the big one.
Yes, it is a big one. It's because it's not an easy thing to do, because we're so used to looking in the mirror and criticizing ourselves, right? So yeah, looking in the mirror every morning and say, you're great, you're awesome, and just doing that. And yeah, I think it's very powerful. Thank you so much, Monica, for sharing that with us. Thank you so much for coming on. So,
yes, thank you.
Great. And for those of you listening or watching, thank you so much for joining us this time. I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.